You want to get high, man?
Let's stimulate your mind.
Get up, Chucky!
What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
Rojan Kim?
California dreaming.
Hello, and welcome to the Rojan Kimcast. It's me,
West Coast
Rojan
shit.
Kim. Thank you so much for joining me today, week 2, quarantine time. Are you in it to win it? Are you in it to win it against the virus? It's us against the virus, guys. Who's gonna win? The Chinese? All right. Okay. Today's episode, I wanted to focus on conspiracies. Ooh, conspiracy. It can be very scary, right? Conspiracies have been a big part of the American imagination. It's part of the American mythology. I can't wait until, we have conspiracy costumes for Halloween, I can't wait until we do stuff like that. That would be great. Okay, pause for a second just to light up a little spliffy joint here. Trying to fix this cam. Oh God, I suck at this fucking. Okay, I'm trying to do a live thing. Juggling a lot of things here, all by myself. But anyways, today's episode of the Rojan Kimcast 140. I Ain't No Hoax. I want to just talk about conspiracies because I think there's a lot of them abound. Completely natural. Makes sense, right? I'm adjusting the video here, which can be annoying. I apologize. All right, so here we go. Conspiracies. Right? Last time I was talking about sort of the spectrum between complete skepticism, right, on one end, and then on the other, just complete capitulation to whatever anybody is saying, any sort of authority. And I understand that there is an interplay between the two right now. People are trying to really figure out what the fuck is going on, and I think a lot of that is because, frankly, our leaders have failed us, guys. Our leaders have failed us. Not only that, our media has failed us. Our institutions as a whole have failed us. And so that's where we are. We're not very well educated. We're highly entertained, very confident individuals. God, I'm sweating. I'm sweaty. Jesus. This is why I shouldn't do a video feed. Anyways, don't check out the video feed, guys, if you want to see me just sweating and struggling, and you can actually see how the sausage is made, and I'm pretty sure it's not a good idea. Anyways, conspiracy. I wanted to start with a quote, and apropos to the topic of conspiracy, this quote is by John F. Kennedy, and he says, the Chinese... Coincidence. The Chinese use 2 brush strokes to write the word crisis. One brush stroke stands for danger, the other for opportunity. In a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. I thought that was an appropriate quote for many, many reasons. Number one, of course, John F. Kennedy, the granddaddy of conspiracy. Of course, with his assassination, everybody's all like, who did it? Who shot JR? Who shot JR? Or JFK? Whatever. It's all the same, right? But in terms of our mythology, that's a big part of the American conspiracy landscape, the consciousness that shapes this idea that there's a deep state, the idea that we are not truly in a free society, but perhaps in a sort of matrix-like tyranny, right? And maybe Trump coming was the first time that veil, the lizard mask, was torn off, right? The mask of the lizard people was torn off, and we got to see underneath the ugliness. But really, you really blame Trump? Is that really what it is? Because I just feel like here, what's the likelihood here, okay? what's the likelihood that we're heading into an utter disaster, a huge catastrophe in terms of health in this society? Is it because we elected a game show host 3 years ago, or is it because of the past 40 years of extracting wealth from the poor and the middle class upwards and then not providing any social safety net like was promised during the New Deal? And in fact, everything was done to take away that social net and undermine it at every possible moment, and then not provide the American people a working healthcare system, or health insurance, or really any quality of life assurances aside from freedom. And so that's what we got now. We got a lot of freedom, no assurances, no health, no insurance, and we're going to let the chips fall where they may. And this isn't conspiracy. We're not even in the conspiracy point. Right? I'm just asking a simple question. What is more likely? That it's because the guy we elected 3 years ago that everybody hates, or because of the past 2 generations of economic policy, social policy, of all the policies we've had and the failure to provide anything for the American people, and now the rubber is meeting the road. I'm saying that a lot. And now push is coming to shove. Now it's all the dominoes. It's the perfect disaster domino. The disaster Voltron to lock in place is here. And our news media, Democratic Party, and, Republican Party isn't any much better, but the fucking political parties are just fighting each other, okay? They're fucking fighting each other. Nothing is getting done. The Democrats are blocking the fiscal package. Maybe it's not good enough. I don't know. All I know is motherfucking Trump and Romney are advocating for UBI. They're saying, like, let's do the Yang thing. Let's do the Yang thing. And meanwhile, Pelosi and Schumer are like, hey, let's do tax cuts instead. Don't give people money directly. Let's give them tax cuts because, yes, that, because it helps the rich. Maybe it'll help the poor as well. Isn't it? Does anybody, you understand right now, you got Trump and Romney to the left of Pelosi and Schumer. The Democrats are to the right now of the administration when it comes to fiscal stimulus, or at least helping the poor. Both sides, no argument when it came to bailing out Wall Street, bailing out industries, bailing out business, bailing out banks, bailing out anybody else but the American working class. When it comes to them, no argument. No argument. It just happens. Shit just happens. When it comes to us, how are we gonna pay for this? How are we gonna pay for all of you poor fucks? You poor fucking. Hold on, I'm selling off some stock. How are we gonna pay for this? You poor fucks, go die. That's basically the lesson here. So I don't know. We'll see. No conspiracy so far. I don't even understand why there needs to be a conspiracy. I mean, there really doesn't. But in some ways, I'm bored. We're all bored in a way. Like, we're all living in a quarantine type situation. Hopefully, not unless you're like in Florida or some shit. A lot of the people in the South are not. And soon they will have to be. And, well, that's just, we're going to be something to look forward to. Anyways, here we are in the coastal elite. In the coastal elite lands, we are ahead of the curve. Not that ahead in terms of like South Korea, but ahead enough where at least California, the numbers, I mean, who knows if it's really testing, the lack of testing or what, but the numbers seem to be lower, a bit lower than in New York. New York is exploding. Of course, again, it has to do with the testing. Testing is exploding, but also population density, and honestly, as much as de Blasio is like, Trump needs to help us or else people will die, I feel like de Blasio could have been doing stuff like earlier. I don't know, back when LA was doing shit, back when Cuomo was doing shit. I feel like de Blasio could have really done maybe some real draconian stuff to stop the spread or slow the spread down. But instead, I think it's too late. And now it's Trump's fault, I guess. I don't know. God damn it. I don't like Trump. I don't like him. I don't support him. I don't like him. But I can also see how it's not helpful to constantly blame him for everything, to constantly shift everything and be like, look at what he did. Look at what the fucking Democrats aren't helping. Okay? Is that the fucking Chinese are responsible as well. On top, I think everybody should be thrown on the pile. They're all fucking responsible. They all suck. All right. So anyways, I haven't even gotten to conspiracy, man. I'm trying to keep these to 20 minutes. Haven't gotten to conspiracy. All right, so here we go. Conspiracy number one. The number one conspiracy being pushed right now, and sure, it's plausible, but it's also plausible because of its unprovability, and that is the old David Icke reptilian globalist theory of the idea that the elites are actually, they don't care about people. They're into human sacrifice. They're into depopulation. They're trying to do it. So the elites, finally, they've unleashed this virus on the world, depopulate the world, take away all our rights under the specter of fear. Perhaps the virus itself is not real. I mean, you can go that far. So there's a spectrum in this sort of this is kind of conspiracy dogma at this point, which is fascinating because conspiracy, the whole point of it is to question reality, but what ends up happening is it becomes dogmatic on its own. It becomes its own religion. And so you kind of have to believe some suppositions in order for all this, to follow. So the main conspiracy sort of point of view right now is in line with the flat earth point of view. And part of the flat earth perspective is that the entire world's elite, including the scientific community, just everybody is in cahoots in faking things like space. I mean, literally space, because the world is flat and there's a dome on top, so there's no space. Satellites, science, everything that sort of points to the idea that the earth is round. Any kind of geosynchronous stuff, Archimedes, even, the ancient Greeks figuring out that it's all a hoax. It's all a hoax to obscure the fact that we actually live on a single flat plane created by one almighty God, and we are not insignificant, tiny little specks in a giant, uncaring, infinite universe. That's not true, what science is telling us, and that in fact, the opposite is true, is that it's all one thing. Okay, so in that framework where you have the elite is somehow that competent to pull all this stuff, to fake hundreds of years of science and space travel, the international, it's like a global conspiracy. Like everybody's in on this to make sure that you think the earth is round when it's really flat. Okay, so you take that and transpose this idea that there's no virus. This is just the whole world is in concert to take away our rights, create a new economy. That's the other part of this theory, is that the elites are crashing the economy so they can build a new economy. They basically want to create neo-feudalism. Right, they want to get it to, and there's some evidence of this. There was that Citigroup memo about the plutocracy. There's been billionaires, asking journalists about like, hey, how do we keep our staff in line when the monetary system collapses? Just little questions like that. So I think it's not to say that the rich are not aware that society could collapse, and what are they going to do when people try to come and eat the rich? How will we prevent from being eaten? These are questions that I would ask myself if I was a rich person and I had a staff I was not paying well or whatever. Like these are all rational questions, right? Now, you want to also, now what gets wrapped into all this is also you got the idea that the elites are pedophile, essentially a form of psychic pedophile vampires that extract innocence from children, usually by fucking them to gain life essence, I guess. I mean, it's some kind of cultish thing. So there's that too, and that this is all part of it, and it might even be part of trying to distract from Epstein, like the things that were going to be uncovered by Epstein. Okay, so the virus is either it's a hoax and it's a ruse, and it's okay. So there you go. One part of the spectrum is that it's fake, just like everything, just like the flat Earth, so just like the round Earth is fake, space is fake, just like 9/11 was fake, just like Columbine is fake, just like everything that ever happened is fake, because that's how competent the world's governments are. So I just want to address that for 1 second, because in some ways, God, I wish that was true. Oh, isn't that comforting to know that they could pull off, like that there is a they, and that they could pull all this off? I mean, in some ways, I wish that was true. It's fucking more comforting than Jesus. You know what I mean? Like there's somebody out there and they can just they run everything, and everything that seems like chaos and just fucking randomness is actually just tightly controlled and executed to a T. It's very impressive. And honestly, I don't see why they don't just come out and just be like, yeah, we're doing it. Because I would give up my rights to let them run things. They seem to be they're doing great. They all right. So I just think my main beef with that line of thinking, the flat earth line, all of this, is that I just don't see that level of competence. Unless but of course, when you have confirmation bias, you can say, well, that's how competent they are. They're able to obscure their competence with incompetence. Incompetence makes it look like they can't pull it off, which is exactly what you would want to do when you're trying to pull something off. But at that point, it's just like nothing is provable and everything fits the bias that you have in your view of reality. So at that point, can't argue. That's just, if no proof is proof of what you're saying, then there's nowhere to go. You know what I'm saying? There's no way to. Then it is what it is. It's just like believing in God. It just is. That is. All right, fine. But I don't know, man. I just don't believe that we are that competent, that everybody, and JFK, I brought up JFK at the beginning. Dude was shot. Was it a masterful plan that was executed by the world's governments and the CIA and the fucking Bilderberg Commission and the mafia and the goddamn, Cuban government, whatever, like all these people who are in cahoots? Could they all be in cahoots, pull it off, and not rat on each other? Is that possible? 9/11, inside job? Is it possible that you had thousands of people working in concert to run planes into the United States without anybody fucking ratting anybody out? Like, it doesn't make sense. Just as much as when we got to the whole Russiagate thing. Didn't make fucking sense. There's not a single person, no evidence at all, and not a single person that you could jail. Even now, they just dropped the charges on those Russians. The fucking, that without, in the middle of this pandemic, of course, one might say that perhaps that was, perhaps the Democrats did it. Okay, so here we go. Virus is fake. Okay, that's sort of that aspect. My whole thing about the virus is fake thing is the same thing as flat Earth. It's just, how are you going to pull all that off? All right, so here we go. Virus is real. Now here's some fun conspiracies on the side of that the virus is real. So number one of my favorite ones, which I think is quite silly, but it's that the Democrats did it. Which I think is awesome. Which some of the conspiracy. Okay, so you have some conspiracy people who have 1 foot in the flat Earth, but then 1 foot in this realm where they're like, I could see that maybe the Democrats are doing it to take out Trump. Because listen, they try to take out Trump with Russiagate, try to take him out with impeachment. Okay, the only thing they could hope for is that the economy would fail, and meanwhile the economy was soaring, or at least the stock market was, at least the appearance of it was. Next thing you know, fucking coronavirus, boom, hits, down, economy down, Trump down, Trump. Is he going to win? Is he going to lose? Now, that's their best strategy is to inflict a global pandemic on the population. Instead of giving you health care, instead of giving us fucking universal basic income or any of the progressive platform shit, they'd rather release a global pandemic so they could take back the White House. Okay, I give it to them. I could see the Hillary doing it. I could see Obama doing it. I mean, if they killed Epstein, they could do this. I could see all of that. It just seems very unlikely. I mean, it just seems like maybe in cahoots with the Chinese, because the Chinese and the Obamas are tight. They were the neo-libs and the Chinese are super tight. The whole globalist agenda, globalism's global supply chain, super tight. So then the Chinese happen to have a virology. The Wuhan Institute of Virology is a thing. Wuhan Institute of Virology. It's a thing. Look it up. Coincidence? Sure. Okay, let's just say it's a coincidence. Yeah, it came from the bat eaters. It didn't come from the fucking virus lab. It came from the bat eaters, right? And then so you can see how the conspiracy writes itself. Chinese in cahoots with the Democratic elite, the deep state, perhaps engineered a virus that they knew would only kill boomers. Okay? It would kill boomers. right? It's not going to threaten. It's going to fuck up the economy for a while, but at least the young will live, and we can regrow the economy, okay? Could change everything into this new sort of global surveillance state, global sort of, you know, all kind of become more like China. Everybody has social credits. Everybody has facial recognition following them everywhere. You know, it's an absolute surveillance state, just not a totalitarian one like China, but a quasi-totalitarian one. Little more Brave New World than 1984, you know what I'm saying? It's like a little more, oh, yeah, we got, come on in. I'm up. Yep, I'm back. All right. Little more Brave New World. Not so much 1984. China's a little more 1984. Not so much Brave New World, you know, and so maybe that's where we are. Okay, fine. Yeah, all right. You really think that again, the competence thing. You mean the same people who were trying to frame Trump for Russia and couldn't, and bungled that, could barely do that. I mean, how are you gonna? Yeah, you gonna get this guy on fucking crimes? I'm sure the guy has crimes. You can't get him on crimes, and now all of a sudden they're able to pull off the most giant pandemic ever. They're able to pull off that. Okay, I mean, I guess, but that again, a lot of credit, you know, and I just don't believe. I'm just like a chaos and incompetence guy, you know what I'm saying? And then an opportunism. People take, just like crisis and opportunity, the whole thing with the Chinese. So, if anything, with the Chinese, since they came up with the whole thing, I feel like, if anything, they're going to try to take advantage of the crisis, spin it, and hopefully it doesn't, just like the U.S. is trying to take advantage of the crisis, okay? So, on the other hand, you got, maybe it's the other side. Maybe it was the Trump side. Maybe it's the U.S. Maybe the Trump administration put out the virus in order to gain its dictatorial control, finally, fascist control of the United States. Also, the Trump administration fucking posturing against China, right? Posturing against China, trying to get those jobs back, trying to divert the supply chain back to the States. So then China, right? Gets hit with this virus because the Chinese are saying that maybe the U.S. put the virus in China, right? Maybe it started in China because of the U.S. And the reason they did that is it's all part of Trump's plan to divert the supply chain from the U.S., from China to the U.S., because that's part of why we got this curve problem, that whole flattening the curve thing. That's the reason we have that line right there, is because we don't stockpile our shit anymore, and we don't have we don't produce our own medical technology, and we don't produce our own pharmaceuticals because it's all supplied through the global supply chain, meaning China, and we have this sort of just-in-time kind of inventory thing where you just keep getting shipments every week, and now that thing, there's just been a big old combo breaker put into that, you know what I mean? And that's part of the posturing of the United States of wanting to divert that supply chain back to the United States. And also the rest of the world may want to divert their supply chains, not have this business model anymore, which is going to fuck China, you know what I mean? And kind of is in line with what Trump was trying to do with this trade war. And on top of that, I think this whole Chinese virus thing, by saying this is a Chinese virus, like, even though the media is going, yeah, that's racist, it's also, part of it is posturing against the CCP, because I think we are looking to divert our military from the Middle East to the South China Sea. I mean, I think that is a thing that's inevitable. It's a thing that was being talked about back in the political science classes I was taking in the 90s. That was like a real thing. There's like no naval presence in the South China Sea besides the United States and China is building their navy. And that's the thing. China's been taking islands. They've been doing it. No one's really been standing up to them. They've kind of been kicking the rest of Asia around because they can do it. And so this could all be part of geopolitical scheme. Put the virus in China, fuck up the supply chain, make everybody feel like we got to get disconnected from the Chinese supply chain, then start hammering the idea that this is a Chinese virus, not an Asian virus, but a Chinese virus. And the U.S. is here to fucking stand up to China and fucking make sure that, like, they don't bully all the Asian countries around and that they don't have naval dominance. Of course, that also means the U.S. should have naval dominance. Small coincidence, paying for that, perhaps the virus. Well, I don't know. Okay? Possible. Very possible. Very unlikely. You really think this guy, the guy who's racist and a retard, that he was able to pull this off? You think he was able to? It just doesn't make any sense. Does it make any sense? if he's as incompetent as everybody says he is, why would you even expect him to do any different? Like, why? Like, blaming it on the guy who's already a Russian agent and incompetent, it just seems ridiculous. Okay, it just seems ridiculous. But that's where we're at. And in a way, aren't we privileged? Aren't we privileged to have this time to be so partisan and so hacky? You know what I mean? Like, isn't it nice? I mean, in a couple of weeks, we'll be praying. We'll be dreaming of these times. We'll think of it as an Eden, right? We were so innocent. Now our hospitals are overflowing, and people we know are starting to get sick and die. But remember when we were fucking blaming Trump and making it into a political thing? That was awesome. Well, now that everybody in government has died, I don't think it's going to be that bad, but they're going to be getting it. They're going to be getting it. They're still fucking... They should have just fucking injected a bunch of cash into the American public and then just bounced. But instead, they're haggling, they're arguing. Rand Paul's got it. They all got it. They got it. They're all the risk group, too. You know, isn't that funny? Anyways, so there's another possibility there. The other possibility on the virus's real side is that China did it, okay, without any help from the U.S., but that China did it, whatever it is, unsure. But two possibilities. One possibility is it is engineered. There is a Wuhan. It is an engineered thing. Okay, sorry. Had to come back. Stream went down. Too many things. Just me here. I don't have a staff. Okay, here we go. Let me wrap it up. I'm wrapping it up. All right, final conspiracy is that China did it, okay? This has a two-pronged thing. One is that they actually engineered the virus in the Wuhan Institute of Virology and let it go themselves in a sort of 12 monkeys-like thing where they just let it go. And part of the reason they were making the virus is to stop the Hong Kong protests, or at least divert from the Hong Kong protests and the Uyghur thing and really whatever. And then, so that's one possibility, that they put it out. The other possibility is that the virus comes from the lab, but it was released on accident. And one of the theories I heard, I mean, it's plausible, there is that wet market by there, okay? There is a wet market by there, and that a janitor was discarding specimens. You know, it's very possible that he was discarding specimens and that instead of throwing them in the garbage, what he decided to do was sell them to the lab, right? And thus, I mean, not the lab, sell them to the market as food. And then, whatever, people ate them, la-di-da-di-da, like the whole thing. You get it. Like people butchered it, ate it, and that's what it. Okay, so that's possible. The other possibility is that the scientists who are saying that this kind of came from nature, we think it came from nature because of the genetic data of the virus, but that scientists have been warning people about the goddamn bad eating, okay? People have been warning us for years about the danger of the SARS coronavirus that exists naturally in bats and how they can be transmitted to humans, especially with the culture of bad eating that occurs in southern China. And that the Chinese, what they're really doing, and I think which is the most plausible thing, is that regardless if it came from the lab or naturally occurred, what the Chinese government is doing is suppressing the information about the beginning of the outbreak, because I think whether or not it was the government, the central government, or the provincial government, the Hubei province governor or the fucking Wuhan mayor or whatever, like that on the local level, they were most definitely covering it up. I think that's really what the thing is. So maybe not necessarily a CCP, but party members, since they're all CCP, may have been covering it up. And then it went out of control, started spreading out of Wuhan. The whole time they could have stopped people from Wuhan. They didn't, and that could be part of it as well. That's less of a conspiracy and more like of an incompetence thing. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at. I'm sort of like, I don't know if that's particularly true. I think it's very likely, just like it is likely with our government, that there is a lot of fuckery, suppression. Look, we had senators fucking inside trading, right? Right before this. So they knew about this shit. Everybody knew about this shit. Okay? They all knew about it back in December. Okay, everybody knew. Everybody meaning the whole world knew about this in December. In November, it's very likely that the Chinese government knew about it, like for that month. Okay, the government at multiple levels knew about it. I mean, maybe Beijing didn't know about it till the end of November, but they fucking knew about it, all right? And then they spent all of December trying to fucking do whatever. So I don't necessarily say it's their fault because every government had no clue what the fuck this was and was doing what they could, right? But at the same time, you can't let the fear of sounding racist distract us from these geopolitical facts, these real things that are going on. I mean, there's a real information war. You know, there is one. Okay, remember the Houston Rockets? Remember the Hong Kong protests? Remember how suddenly LeBron is like, oh, we shouldn't say this about China. Remember that was like a big deal. Okay, think of the Chinese influence on the American. I think there's plenty of Joe Rogan podcasts where they talk about this. I think that what's her name, Alyssa Chen one. That was a recent one where they talked about it. But there's an immense amount of CCP pressure, lobbying power in the United States, in our entertainment, Marvel, Disney, they're all up in it because people want that sweet Chinese money. And it's not any kind of like real conspiracy thing. It's just greed, okay? So I think that's the most likely thing to me, you know? I think a lot of what is going on is completely possible, and has been warned about by scientists without needing a conspiracy. You know what I mean? I don't think you need the level of competence that is necessary to pull off a conspiracy, because with enough randomness, right, the random mutation of viruses to jump from bats to humans, and the randomness of people eating, you know, just the numbers of China, numbers, right? You combine chaos, the randomness, you combine that with incompetence, right? And then you combine that with opportunism and also people trying to avoid the blame, you know, trying to shift blame onto anybody else. And all of this shit is fucking, I don't know, pretty plausible to me that it's the perfect storm of randomness, incompetence, and opportunism, you know? So just like the Chinese, I mean, hey, listen, I love the Chinese culture. I love the Chinese people. You know, the Koreans, we would not be even literate without them, you know? We don't even have the idea of a written language without them. We got a lot to owe them. We don't have Confucianism without them, huh? We don't even know how to set the table without them, all right? So I get it. Chopsticks. We would be eating with our fingers like Indians. I don't know. Like, you know, but I'm just saying, thank you, China, for bringing civilization to our people, to everyone. Gunpowder, silk, thank you. But the Chinese government, though, it's the government. And I'm not saying I know anything about it. I just understand that, you know, authoritarian one-party rule, not the best thing, suppression of information, suppression of freedom. Uyghurs. Anwar is my buddy who sold me hash in Shanghai. Oh, God, now he's probably going to be taken away to a camp because I ratted him out. I'm sorry, China. I'm sorry, Anwar. No, it's not hash. It was just medicine, Chinese ancient traditional medicine. I'm sorry. Please don't torture my friend or put him in a camp. Okay. See, that's what I'm talking about. It's scary. At the very least, at least here in the States, don't necessarily have to worry about going like, fuck Trump, and then being woo, taken away, you know, having cops come and take me away just for saying that. Aren't we fucking lucky, all of you who fucking hate him, to just be like, fuck him, I hate him, fuck him, and nothing's happening to you. Nothing is happening. Did you know that in China, they'll lock you first they'll beat you, then they'll force you to recant. And you think that's nice? You think they'll do it in a nice way? You ever have Asian parents? All right. Anyways, I don't know what the fight is here. I'm just trying to fight the information fight, right? Trying to sift through it all, right? But I'm just saying, look into a lot of this stuff. Look into the fact that Taiwan is not part of the WHO. Look into it. Why? Because China. Okay? Because China's like, we don't want that. We don't want them to be in it because we don't like them. Because they're not supposed to be a country, because we are China and they're not, okay? And that's really, it's a political thing. They would rather the Taiwanese people die and not get WHO resources because of politics. Meanwhile, they're trying to say, hey, man, this could have happened anywhere. We're fucking cool guys. Come on. Could have happened anywhere, guys. You can't just say it came from China. Come on. Yeah, right? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself why in Hong Kong people are being censored from saying that the virus is from Wuhan. Why is that? I mean, they're Chinese. They're not being racist. They're just trying to tell the truth. But why are they being suppressed? Interesting. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, the Chinese government is not, they're not 100% absolved, and neither are we, the United States people, and neither are the people. You know what I'm saying? We've been spreading this shit forever. So, I don't know. Do I have any answers? No. I can't rightly say what reality is. I guess that's my main thing. It's not that I'm trying to debunk conspiracies. It's not that I'm trying to tell you how it happened or what actually happened or what, I think a lot of people are trying to do that now. You can see online. A lot of people are making very declarative statements, very just like, the virus is doing this and only this % of people is doing, and this is what will happen. And no, in China, this happened. And no, this is what, and you know what? We don't fucking know, man. We don't know. The complete picture of reality won't be seen until years. We're in the middle of a maelstrom, and we're trying to look at it from the outside, and it's impossible. And I suppose that's human nature. Just like conspiracies, people are holding on to things that are secure. They're holding on to things they feel are absolutes. They're holding on to things that they feel won't change in this tumultuous, chaotic time. Numbers. Numbers are real, just like Pythagoras said, right? Numbers, that's reality. But numbers keep changing, and we don't really know the numbers until we're done. We're in the middle. Maybe it's politics. We're hanging on the politics, blue team, red team, blue team, hate Trump, whatever. I love Trump, hate Trump, whatever. But holding out, okay? Tribalism. Right? Fucking geographic tribalism. Yeah, L.A., New York, yeah. Holding on to everything. Soon people will turn to Jesus, They'll turn to God, Buddha, Allah. They'll turn to all the fucking, they might even turn to fucking Thanos, Zeus, whoever the fuck. Religion, whether it's in the form of organized religion, whether it's in the form of some kind of spirituality like in California, a lot of meditating going on maybe, right? Whatever form it takes, people are going to start clinging to it because as a society, we haven't really had any real values for the longest time. And now that people can't be distracted by buying stuff and being out and about, and you're just kind of sitting there contemplating your own mortality, I feel like the cracks are starting to form. We also have a mental health issue, we have, on top of the health issue. So those cracks will start forming too as well. And it will be an interesting time. People are acting like now is the way it is forever, but are actually in the beginning stages of the curve coming. And who knows what it's going to be like at the top. That zenith, it's going to be fun. But it's a different time. Whether or not it's real or not, shit has changed, guys. So I think it's time, to adapt, to be flexible, fluid, to understand that maybe our traditional institutions that are supposed to help us, perhaps those institutions that are supposed to inform, like journalism, they failed us. Government, supposed to take care of us, they failed us. Even businesses, I guess the market's supposed to look after us, they're failing us. Everybody has failed us, and I think it's only exposing the corruption of the system. I can only hope that there will be a counter push from the bottom. Hopefully not a scary eat the rich kind, and more of a let's vote these motherfucking corrupt motherfuckers out and get some motherfuckers who will get in there and do something, right? Let's get these fucking bean counters out of there. Let's get these fucking corrupt ass lizard people out of there. These fucking, what are you doing? Hemming and hawing, wondering how much we should nickel and diming the American people? All right. There's plenty of people yelling about that. Whoa, this went longer than I thought. I'm going to run out of data, maybe. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Rojan Kimcast. I'm doing this more often this week. So please subscribe. I put up a subscription page where you can go to Apple, you can go to Google, you can go to Spotify, you can go to Stitcher. I got to put up 4 links, 4 places, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, all that stuff. I'm doing a full-on assault blast, comedically, informatively. Sometime I may end up crying and dabbing on TikTok. And don't you want to see that? So thank you for listening. Until next time.